Hey everybody, Mark Richmond from Divi Dojo, and today I have a really cool contact page layout for you that we are going to build from scratch based on what a client says he really likes this contact page from another site, and he would like that for his site. So we're going to build it from start to finish today. So hopefully you can grab a few tips or tricks along the way that I go over in building this site, and we're going to make a really nice looking landing page where the form is kind of a new trend or ongoing trend with sites is to have a form that's not in boxes but just lines, almost like you're filling out a page where there's just an underlined form. We're going to make that right away, and let's get started. All right. So here we are. I've got a client that likes the swoon contact page layout, and there's no plagiarizing. When someone likes a look, when a client really likes how something else looks, then I take it as a challenge to get their page to look as close as possible to what they like. And if they found one that they like, I'm going to go make it as close to verbatim as I can, and then we can go back and switch it up after looking it over. But just to get a client to really like a certain layout and then get the Divi layout to look exactly like that or as close as possible, and you let the client know that, they're gonna love it off the bat, and then we can go back and tweak it so that it's not just exactly like what the client has here that we're seeing. So I'm going to be going back and forth, and this is not an endorsement for this company or the company that I'm doing this for. They just really like the layout that this company has come out with. And so we're going to do the best to mimic that. Now, this is not in a Divi environment. I'll pull that up right now. This environment is built in themes. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. It's a swoon theme. It's their own theme. So, all right, we'll go back. Moving right along. Let's start with getting the header to look like the swoon header. Incidentally, I am sporting my Yankee hat today. It's opening day. It's going to give away like however old this video is and when you're watching it. But today's opening day on March 28th, and hopefully Yankees are in good shape by the time you're watching this. But no matter. Okay, moving right along. We've got going to drop in a full width section to get this contact header going. And we're going to go with a full width header. I'm going to title this contact this client, period. And this font is a little bit bigger than what the standard Divi font size is going to be. The standard Divi font size for the H1, which is for the title, is 30. This looks to be closer to like 60 or maybe 72. So I'm going to bump this up to 72 pixels. And then you'll notice as soon as I move this toggle, you see this little phone icon over here. You can click that and set it for tablet and smartphone modes. Now I'm in the back end of Divi, and I will make another tutorial of making the same layout in the front end using the visual builder. But I started out with Divi in the back end, and it's less confusing for me. Sometimes I've noticed in the visual builder, the spacing can be a little bit off when you open it up, and it throws me off. But at least here I know where my spacing is going to be at. But anyway, back to the title. We've got, I generally keep the tablet and the desktop sizes roughly the same. And we can go back and tweak that if we want to. But to go to the smartphone, now you're getting down to a lesser width, 680 or so. Bigger smartphones can handle a little more, but we no longer have that 1920 or 1600 or even 1280 width about it. So I'm going to drop this down to about 48, and that should still look nice when it's on a phone and you're seeing this contact page. Now moving down a little bit lower, we've got body text. We're not going to have any body text in the hero header. But we are going to have to add some space in the top and bottom. And if you'll notice here on the swoon one, there's usually a default space of about 350 or maybe 300. I'm going to add 100 to the top and bottom. And I mean, it could be off here and there, but I want to have the space generally the same as this. So I'm going to add 100 pixels to the top and 100 pixels to the bottom. That way I know my contact is going to land right in the middle of this layout. Now, if I want the contact to be at the top, I bump this top padding down to like 48 and I bump this up to 200, and then you'll get a nice larger space at the bottom and a smaller space at the top. Now, this also has a background and a grayed out, overlay, transparent, semi-transparent overlay. So let's go back to the content tab in the full width header module. We're going to go down. Oh, I haven't even, yeah, I added the title. We're going to go down to where we add the background. This is the color background. This is where you can do gradient colors. You click on this, you can get one color across the two, and there's all kinds of different settings for this. But we're going to go right on over to a picture background, which is this third tab over. And I'm just going to select anything that's 1920 or 2000-ish. And we can go back and tweak this picture. Just for now, I want to get the client approval. But we can go back and tweak this and try and get that file size down. But for now, 290K, not too bad for the contact page. There's not going to be much else on it, so it should still load fairly quickly. So I got my picture there. And then you're going to see these settings down below in the picture. And I've got options to cover, fit, or make the actual size. I am going to keep it on cover in this situation. But you could do fit if your image is a little bit small. Well, you can do cover or fit. But here I'll click on fit, and you'll see what's happening. It's going to fit the entire image. And since this image is actually a little bit taller than wide, it's going to fit that whole picture. Even though it's bigger than what you're going to see, it's going to fit that into the space. I don't want that to happen in this case, so I'm going to keep it on cover. Also, you can adjust where it's going to sit. So on different browser widths, you're going to have different exposure to that header. It's going to expand. Let me see my hands here. It's going to expand and contract, and it's going to reveal more or less of that picture. So let's say we don't want these heads to cut off in the picture. I'm going to move that to bottom center, and I'll make sure that way you're always going to see these people sitting there, like answering whoever's contacting. That's the idea behind using this picture. So I'm going to move that to bottom center, and if I don't like it, I can move it back to center. And then finally, to give it that grade overlay, there's another setting for that. That way my contact, in this case IBS, is going to stand out. And I want to make sure that the text is centered, so I'm going to keep it centered. I'm going to go down here to background overlay color. I'm going to select black and then drop that down. With this slider, it's going to set the transparency rate. So I'm going to drop it down to about 32. The checkerboard shows you what you're going to see through. So that's going to be your image back there. And then I want to make sure the text is light. I already have my title set to 48 on a smartphone and 72 on a desktop. And let's check out what that looks like now. I'll go to preview. Click on that tab. So here we go. Oh, look, they're really cut off. So I'm going to go back to centered. But we've got our grayed background. We've got our nice 72 size text in the middle saying contact IBS. And let's go back and just make some adjustments to that. As we saw, the picture is coming in low. So I'm going to switch that back over to centered. And then I'm going to add just a little. I'm clicking back over that tab. I'm going to add just a little bit. See how here, got my menu height equal to this over here on this side, but I need to add probably another, I'm going to go with 48 pixels on the top, 48 pixels on the bottom. We should be in shape for matching up that. All right, let's go here back to the design tab. I'm going to add, scroll all the way down to the padding. Okay, I'm going to make it 148 at the top, 148 at the bottom. We should have, oh wait, I mentioned one other thing. I want to lighten up our background overlay color just a little of it, 32. I'm going to drop it down to like 24. And let's see where we're sitting now. Hit preview. Okay. So we're a little bit past, but that's okay. I'm not going to keep going back and forth with where that's sitting. But you'll see, no matter where, and let's get it down to a cell phone size. And that contact dropped down to 48. This looks really nice. It'll look nice on a phone. There's our menu coming in over it. So I'm going to stretch that back over. There's another way to check different size iPhones if you want to see what that would look like. And I'll go back to that when we have more of the page done. So far, okay, we've got our header. And moving on down, I've got 2 columns with some text, some locations, and a form. But it's a specialized form. So it's not, you don't get those boxes. You just have a line below looking like a sheet of paper almost when you're going to fill it out. And I've noticed a lot of companies doing that. So if you do make these forms like this, save them. You can export them and use them on other sites. A lot of people are going with this look that has a line below. So when you actually do fill in the name, it's over the line. I don't want to accidentally send them a message. Okay, so let's add 2 columns to this layout. Go back over to the back end mode. And in the next section here, I'm going to add a standard section. Whenever you add one, it'll auto pop up with this insert columns. There's a default to the columns. When you first open up a new page, you get this default section, and it doesn't give you the option to change the number of columns automatically. So I always delete those. So I don't know why those come in like that, but going back to this section here, I'm going to add this and this, and I'm actually just going to copy their text for now and then swap it out with some dummy text later, and we'll go back and edit this in the visual builder. But this part's pretty easy, pretty cut and dry. I'm going to add a paragraph with a text module. And this paragraph looks to be about, let's say, 24-point text. And I'm going to go ahead and go with two double line spacing. So let me just copy this. This isn't meant to be used literally. This is just going to be for the client to see it, and they can go in and change the text to however they want it. But here we go, and it already is set to a heading 4, which is fine. It's lower on the SEO totem pole. We don't want this to stand out as much as this, but this is also a contact page, so I guess overall SEO is not going to be as important for this page. Other pages, you want to pay attention to that H rating depending on the titles of your different sections, where H1 stands out, H2 stands out, and so forth and so on. We'll get more into SEO later in other videos. But so back to this paragraph. I'm going to make sure that I go down here to the heading, and sometimes you're tempted to just start changing this heading size right off the bat, but this is set for H1. That's the default tab that it's set to. You have to remember to click on the H4 so you can change that H4 setting back here in your content. So I'm going back over here on my H4 tab, and I'm going to change this to 24 pixels in size. And then for, again, your phone option or your mobile options icon pops up. I'm going to click on smartphone and drop that down to about 18. This is going to save you a lot of time in the long run going back and tweaking it for a phone later. When after you've been doing these for a while, you'll start to realize what works and what doesn't. And I've come to find out when it comes to like 24 size text on a heading, bumping it to 18 or maybe 20 works nicer on a phone, where 24 would just look huge and take up all the space. You wouldn't see what was below it necessarily. So I actually might keep this at 20. And then we're gonna go back to desktop here, 24 pixels font size. And I'm gonna bump this up to 1.5, and let's see what that looks like. Actually, I haven't added any space to the top and bottom of the text here. It looks like there's a good 150 pixels drop before you even get to this text. So I'm going to add, there's some default there already. I think it's about 48. So I'm going to add about 100 pixels in the design tab of the section, not the column. I'm going to go drop out. I usually space the blue section. I do not space the column settings. That way I don't get confused if I have to go back and tweak something. And then the visual builder is a little bit easier in this case. But I'm going to add a top and bottom 100 pixels padding to that text box. And let's see what we've got so far. Click preview. And there we go. Now clearly this font is different. And you'll see that if I move this in closer, I wonder if I can get this to be, yeah, here we go. Line those babies up some more. We're pretty close. Different font, but real nice space going on here in mimicking another site. And we're just going to go back in. Now this is going to be fun because now we can add a text box and just duplicate that text box once we get the look that we want. And it looks like we got about the same size and same spacing. But what I don't want to have happen now is all this to be bold. So I'm going to go in. It looks like everything's about 24 point even on these. And also, I forgot to do this part. Label these boxes. So when you start getting 20, 30 different modules in there, and a client wants to change it, or you got to go in and change it on the fly, they called you up, you got a minute to work with, whatever, they're in a hurry, or you're out and about pulling this up on your laptop. You don't want to search for what that module was back and forth. Let's say you don't have a good internet connection, it takes a long time to load, whatever. You never know what your situation is. But you want to label all these for sure. So that way, when you do have to go make a change, naturally in the visual builder, you're going to see this off the bat and be able to go in and change it super quick. But in the back end, you're going to have to label these guys. So let's go ahead and add another. I'm going to add these right in the same columns because I don't need to line this other side up with anything. So I'm going to go ahead and add some addresses. In this case, my client, I think, only has 2. So I'm going to add just 2. I'm going to start with 1, but I'm going to add 2 addresses, and I'm going to go ahead and just scroll and copy so I don't have to retype this stuff in. Anything I can do to quicken the process here. So in this case, we're not using an H tag on any of this. We're just using the straight font, but bold for the location, and then not unbold for the rest. But we're going to go in here to the design. In the very top is your text options. I'm going to go ahead and bump that text size up to 24. And then for mobile, again, I hit the icon, hit the smartphone tab. I'm going to bump that down to about 18 this time. But I'm going to leave, I believe I left it at 1.5 in the text line height. I'll go back and see what I did this one at. Super quick. Boom. Move back down to my H4. Line height 1.5. Okay, so that's at 1.5, but we have a little bit of a space added between the title text, I'm gonna call it title text, and the first set of addresses. So I'm gonna add a little bit of space. I'm gonna first, I'm gonna copy this and scroll all the way to the bottom to the admin label, and that's where you can drop in that title. I'm gonna add some space in the design tab. A little bit of padding, looks to be about 48. So I'm going to add 48. And then in between each one of these below looks to be about 24 and another 24 for the next one. So I'm just going to put 24 so I can make them all 24, the rest. And let's see what that looks like. I'm hitting preview. Okay, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And actually, that looks a lot bigger. I'm going to drop these down. But we're getting there. It's getting close. This is going to come together really fast next. I'm going back into the text module, dropping the main text down to 20, and let's drop this back down to 16 in the smartphone, and then actually change this to 24. I'm going to change this to 12 because the rest are going to be 12 down below each text box. And I'm doing these in separate text boxes because they may want to delete or add, and then you can just click the text box instead of having to go in and edit the text out. And you have much more control on spacing than adding more and more text below this first set. So I like to make a text module for each address. Okay, so there we go. 16-point smartphone, 20-point desktop. And I'm now going to go in and pretend these are other addresses. I'll go with 3. Oop, I shouldn't have duplicated that, but I want to go back in though and change my spacing to 12. So everything, there's already 12 on the bottom of the top one. So if I put 12 on the top of this one, it's going to be exactly 24 space between each one. So actually I'm going to delete that one, duplicate that one. This is the duplicate box. The one that's got the overlay boxes. Now let's go back and preview this. And previewing that, much nicer. Now we're close. And I'm done with that side of the contact page. Now I'm going to move over here and we're going to make that, we're going to put some text and then a form. Now over here, I'm going to drop in a text box. Again, that looks like it's about 24. So I'm going to copy this text. Again, this is all going to be changed. This is not literally copying the text from one site. They're not going to use it. This is all going on to a non-working demo site for the time being anyway. So it's not going to be used publicly at all. So I'm going to bump that up to 24. I'm going to leave the 1.5 line space. And then again, the smartphone setting for this, I'll make it 18. Leave that at 1.5. That's going to look nice on a phone. And then I'm leaving that as text. I'm not making that an H tag or a heading tag. This is just telling you what to do for the form. Oop. And again, I forgot to label. We got to label these. You can put this whole thing in there. What the heck? Down to the admin label at the bottom of the content tab. Save. Now, I haven't saved this yet. I recommend saving often, even though Divi does, it will auto save in the browser. But if you turn that setting off in your Divi settings, which you can, then save often. So I'm saving this draft, but I'm not publishing it. So now it's saved. I'll go back and preview this before I build the form. Boom, boom. There we go. And here we are missing our text. Oh, there we go. Hasn't loaded yet. All right. So there we are. There's our text. Maybe it's a bit big. So I'll jump it down 18, 20 and 20 and 20 and 16. I think that's going to be our winning combo. So drop this back down to 20. Smartphone 16. And then there's some space here between the text and the first part of the form. So let's go over here to our spacing within that page. And I'm not going to do anything to the top because I already had that set in the section spacing. But now in the columns box and in the text module, I'm going to set a bottom spacing before that form pops up. And I'm going to make that about 48. That way that form doesn't come in till about 48 pixels down. And then we'll drop in the form. And where's our form? Until I don't have these memorized. What the heck? Okay, I'll definitely edit this. Where's my form? Contact form. Okay, so in the contact form, we've got first name and last name. So I'm going to change these titles to field ID, special characters and spaces. So we're going to go with a no spacing, first name. That'll be our field ID. I'm going to call this first name is our actual title. It's an input field. It's a required field. And then we don't have any conditional logic. We can get into conditional logic in another episode where we're making a form full of conditional logic. But for now, I'll go back and make sure we've got every other piece. Now, again, we've got some customization to the form itself that does not have boxes. We'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to finish putting the fields in. So we've got that field in. I hit save. I'm going to duplicate that. Call the next one last name. Last name. It's also all the same input fields required. Next one, I'm going to duplicate this again. And this is going to be company. So, did I put all those in? Okay, I didn't do it in all caps. Okay, company. This is not required. I want to deter somebody if they don't want to reveal who they are for this. Well, the client is they're doing careers, so they're probably concerned about that. Next, we want email. Email is one of the default boxes. So we've got email, but I just want it to say email. So I'm going to get rid of address. And that is also a required field. Then we want phone number. And we'll go here. I'm going to duplicate that. I'll put phone. Again, phone. And that is going to be an input field, not an email field. Now, if you'll notice this, the field type here, I didn't cover that in the email just now, but the email field has its own type. It's not just an input field. Like sometimes you can make that just an input field, but if you want to have it has some limitations to making sure it's an email, and it'll let you know, hey, this isn't an email. Please type in a valid email. Sometimes people type in the wrong email. They don't finish off, put in Gmail or whatever in the back end of the email. So it'll let you know, hey, this isn't a valid email. So please type in a correct email. So required, I'm going to go back. What was this one anyway? Oh, this was phone number anyway. So I'm going to switch this back to input field. The email is set for email field just above in the last one. So I'll leave that way. Phone number is required. So I will save that one out. And then tell us how we can help. That would be a message. Here we already have a message box. The field ID will make it message. The title will say what they're asking. Tell us how IBS can help. And they can go in and change this. Beauty of Divi is the client can go in and change all these pieces very easily. Okay, and that is also not a required field. So now we've finished our contact form module settings. Let's take a look at what this looks like currently. Not going to look like how we want it to look in this case. It's boxes. And now I'll go back and show you why are we getting these results. The space here is nice, but look, now I've got gray boxes. It looks kind of cool, but it's not what the client wants. So we're going to go and fix these boxes up so that their lines, everything's laid out exactly as you see top to bottom. Here we've got half and half instead of full width. And so we want to change that so everything's full width. So I'm going to go back into the contact form. And even though it looks like it would be falling full width here, the settings are not. So first name and last name were half and half. So we're going to make sure and go into each of these individual settings in the design tab and tell it to make it full width right at the top in the layout. We're going to go back to each one of these. Last name, full width. Company, design tab, full width. Email, design tab, full width. Phone, same thing, full width. And then the message box, I think is always full width. Yeah, or no, I guess you have the option to. But let's make that, make sure it's full width. So now we've got our boxes lining up. As I press preview, now they're all lined up real nice. This is looking pretty close here. What we want to do next is give it this look without any boxes and a line down below. The font size is a little bit different. It's got a CAPTCHA. They don't have a CAPTCHA necessarily, which is good and bad in some cases. So let's go fix that up. So back to the contact form. We're now done with these settings, unless I want to put this little asterisk in, but I'm going to not do that just yet. Now we'll go ahead and make that form look like what you see on the right here in the Swoon version. So the text orientation is default to the left. I'll just click that to make sure that stays that way. We don't want any shadows. But what we do want to do is get rid of those little shadow boxes. And we'll leave the button the way it is for now. That's in a whole different custom settings area. We're going to be fixing that, so I'm not going to mess with the button. But here's where the shadow boxes are set. This is the input, rounded corners. We're not worried about anything. We're not going to have any input border styles. We're going to put a bottom border on the inputs. So we're going to keep that black. It's already set to black. Oh, or almost black. Well, let's make it black. And we're going to make it 1 pixel. That'll put a 1 pixel line below each input as a border. And this tab here will cover the bottom only. If you wanted a box all the way around them, you just keep it on this first tab. But if you don't click the first tab, all these are, you can choose which side of the box you want it to be on. That's going to be just the bottom only. No box shadow. All right, blend mode, animation style. We're not going to mess with those either. Now let's see what we've got. Oh, one other thing, sorry. The background, there's a gray background here. That's default. We're going to go and make this white. So here's the form field background color. We're going to make that white, 100%. Or we could just go completely, if you didn't want to just keep it white, just make it completely transparent. But since our background's already white, we can make that white. Oh, and the font size was a little bit different on this. It's not 14 point like the rest of the text. So we're going to make that font size, bump it up to 18. And spacing, let's go with 2, line height of 2. And line height, not spacing. Spacing is going to remain 0. All right, let's hit save on that. Go back to preview. Oh, there we go. We've got nice lines looking just like the form next door. All the way down. Text box with a line. The CAPTCHA, we can decide to keep it or not. That's a toggle. You can turn it off or on. I'm going to leave it there for this client. But now we've got a duplicated contact page. Looks very, very similar. Clients can be totally happy. And we can move on to the next portion. What did that take us? It took us about 20 minutes. And again, here's an example of, in an earlier video, I talked about how much do I charge for websites, why I decided to go with an average of $100 per page. Now, I've been explaining this along the way, so I've slowed down some. I probably could have done this in 10 minutes. But here's a $100 page that took you 10 minutes to where you're, if you average it out, when you got a $100 landing page that took you 8 hours, these other pages are going to take you 10 minutes. And you're going to make it up in different portions of the site. And you're still going to get paid well for these sites, but it allows you to keep a nicer, friendly pricing to some smaller clients that may want a bigger look. Bigger clients, of course, you're probably going to charge more only because of, mock up several different versions. But well, here we go. This took about 10, 15 minutes, let's say, and we're moving on. All right. Thank you for listening to this portion of building pages. We're mocking up a contact page to look like an existing contact page of another company and getting Divi to look just like that one. Hey, and if you want more of these tutorials and tips and tricks, please hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell so it gives you a notification whenever I've uploaded a brand new tutorial, tip, or trick, or just a vlog about doing your own business, starting your own business. See you next time. Later.